Okay. So thank you guys so much for coming. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. I know that, everyone's time is precious and you all have lives, and Haley's on vacation, and that's amazing that you're here. Thank you. First off, I wanted to say congratulations to everyone on the team for helping, just being here. Like, we are number 217 in the network. Like, that's huge. Out of 420,000 people, like, that's huge. Big deal. Like, I see us in the top 200s, like, in no time. And then obviously we're going to have to kick some major ass to get in the top 100, which is totally doable. Like, we have some freaking badass people on our team. Like, let's be real. Like, we're pretty cool. Okay. So what I want to talk to you guys about today is like sharing vulnerabilities, because that's something that I feel like is a strength of mine, because I just kind of go balls to the wall and just do it. When I first started as a coach, you guys all know what my why was. I hope you do, at least, to live with Cody. I didn't, at the time, I was depressed. I was turning to alcohol to kind of numb the pain. I was turning to shopping to fill the void of emptiness. Food, I would binge eat. Like, I remember my staple was like macaroni and cheese and chocolate covered almonds. Those are the things I would literally eat like every single day, every evening, no matter what. Like, binge eat them, like the whole box, the whole, like, Costco almonds, like, that's big. So that was like my life. So I wanted to live with him. I wanted to be happier. I wanted to be healthier. Personal development is something that has seriously transformed my life. And when I first became a coach and people are like, be vulnerable, be you, be honest, I was just like, like, I don't really know what that means, but I'm going to do my best to do it anyway. So I started reading books on the business, like The Compound Effect, which is an amazing first book, when you're starting your business. It kind of explains, just hit share screen. It explains like the little actions over time compounded yield great results. So that was a great book. And I was like, oh, this is personal development. Okay, whatever. And then I started getting into books about me and like discovering things about me. And I was just like, wow, okay. And it was uncomfortable because I was like, okay, like one of the first things I noticed was how I lacked so much confidence, that I cared so much about what other people thought, that it held me back from doing a lot of things because I was afraid to be wrong or afraid to get laughed at or made fun of or whatever. So I was like, wow, I really need to improve that. So I started listening to like Chalene Johnson on confidence, and I started reading books on like how to gain more confidence, which is still something I struggle with today, because we all do. Like, in this business, you get to a level where, you start off and you build a confidence to go to the next level. You need to build that confidence to go to the next level. You get to the next level, you have to build your confidence more, because you're constantly growing as a person and as a leader. So that's where personal development comes in. So staying on track, letting my brain catch up with my mouth real fast. I know it's uncomfortable sharing the vulnerable stuff, because we're afraid to be judged, and we're afraid, what if someone thinks this or what if someone thinks that? But one way I have always got around sharing my vulnerability is thinking how much I could change someone's life. One person, even one person. If I shared that I struggled today with my workout because my knees were killing me, and someone who has bad knees thinks that they could like never do something, that's a small example, but you know what I mean? Like, just sharing something, and if it could impact the life of one person, then I've done my job and I feel good. And I'm sure you've all gotten messages or gotten someone telling you, because you said this or because you shared this, I was able to do this thing. And you're just like, wow, because of me, like, you made a positive choice. Like, that's huge. And so for me, overcoming the fear of sharing vulnerabilities is really stop focusing on me and focus on how I can help someone else. Like, how can I serve someone? So by me sharing the things that I don't want to talk about, the uncomfortable stuff, my growth, things I learned from personal development, my struggle with, my prior struggle with alcohol, my current and prior struggle with shopping to fill, sadness and stuff like that. Like, I could be helping someone else, realize that, they're not alone. And to me, that's enough. Like, that's huge, because then you get those messages and you're like, wow, it was worth it. And then you do it again and you get those messages and you're like, wow, it was worth it. You have to just do it. Like, people are like, how do you just share all that stuff? I'm like, I just literally forced myself to do it. So Bree was asking me how I write out posts and how long it takes me. And it really just depends on like what it's about. If it's something like that, like I'll just brain dump. Like I'll use the notes section on my phone. I'll just write a shit ton of stuff down, right. And it's just like all jumbled and it doesn't make sense because that's kind of how I am all over the place. And then I reread it and I'm like, okay, this clearly goes at the top. This clearly goes at the middle. And now how can I weave this into my job, into helping someone and, you know, making it a positive learning experience, which brings me to my favorite, I'm trying to slow down my talking for you guys because I know I get really crazy and I like to talk like an auctioneer. So if you need me to slow down, raise your hand or say so. My favorite post format is I feel, I have learned. So I always write up a post. I don't think about how perfect it's going to be, how awesome it's going to be. I literally brain dump everything just there, all my thoughts on there. And then I reread them and then I organize them to I feel, I've learned. In any way you want, I mean, really, whichever feels most comfortable to you. So I start off with how I used to feel. So before this opportunity, I used to feel lonely and depressed, and I would turn to alcohol every single weekend to numb the feelings because I couldn't deal with it. Like, and that's the truth. And that's something that obviously, don't want to share that, but I'm going to anyways, because I know other people struggle with it. I feel so much better now that I have learned, you could weave this into however you want. You could make each sentence or each, I've learned each category bigger. So you could talk like a lot about how you felt. You could talk a little. I know Tiffany's really into doing the short, catchy posts, which is great. I love those too. I also think, every once in a while it's important to put like a bigger one out there to really explain your story. But breadcrumbing, with those little catchy posts are also very important. So I would talk about how I felt before this, and then I'll talk about how I feel now. Like I feel energized. I have a mental clarity. I feel like me, like I'm not numbing the feelings, and then I'll go into the end, which is where I wrap up, where I talk about what I've learned. There might be some paragraphs in between just explaining my story a little bit more, and that's all to your discretion, however you want to do it. The I have learned thing is probably the most powerful part of that post because you're tying it all in together, and then you're tying it into this opportunity because it's personal development, that's really getting us through all this. Like, well, for me, it's personal development and obviously the support. Thanks for saying that, Taylor and Haley. I realize I use this all the time, but I hadn't expressed it or shared it with you guys. So I was like, wow, that's really important because, game changer. And it gives you something to follow. Then it starts your mind, going, because when you can actually start thinking about how did I feel before this thing, my mind will just wander and I'll just brain dump all that. And then I'll think, how do I feel now? And then brain dump all that. And then what have I learned from this experience or this situation? I've learned that alcohol didn't make me feel better. It kept me from growing as a person. It shut me off from personal growth. It shut me off from life essentially. And it caused a lot of problems in my marriage. I was doing absolutely disgusting things, just being a gross, sloppy drunk at the bar, losing my shoe, very awesome. So, I've shared all that publicly so people know that, but it's a very simple format to follow. So yes, that was the main thing I wanted to share with you guys because I thought that was super profound. Let me see, let me read my notes. Oh, one other thing I wanted to touch on that is not related to this at all. I learned this this format. I don't know if you guys ever watch Colleen's Upline, Liz Harkey. Her calls are called Drop the Cookie. I think that's her team name. But I was just watching it today on mindset and stuff, and she talks about Tony Robbins having this formula for situations. And I love this because it's totally we can all apply it, and it's simple. The 3 words, they're mean, meaning, and meaningful. So I'm going to use the example that she used because this applies to it. So I had a coach on the team, I don't know, last month or something. I thought this girl was a lifer. We talked all the time. I spent a lot of time helping her. She just up and quit out of nowhere. And I was I was kind of shocked. I was hurt, and then what does this mean? The mean part of this is my raw, immediate emotion that I go into. So I go into this spiral of I should have done more. What, I'm not a good leader. What if I could have done this better? What, your mind starts going crazy, and then you go through all these emotions, and then you're mad. You're well, that sucks. She's missing out. Sucks for her. And then you go into the meaning, which is the real feelings. What does this really mean? We don't know. So she quit. So I go into the more logical thinking. maybe she had stuff going on in her life at that time that I don't know about that pulled her away. Maybe it had nothing to do with me. Like, that's obviously more logical. Maybe it's just not her time. Maybe this just isn't for her. So you transition from that like immediate raw emotion, which is where we don't want to stay, because that's where we spiral into those crazy thoughts and thinking we're inadequate. And anything really, not just this example, but I just want to make sure that you guys know, like, people quit on me all the time. Like, it happens, you know, we're in a journey where it's tough, and the weak, they don't last, unfortunately. So that's why, you know, it's super important to, you know, push personal development. So yeah, let's get into meaningful. The meaningful thing, what Tony Robbins says, is how can I take this situation and make it meaningful? So this is where we start to learn from what happened. So how can I take the situation of her quitting and make it meaningful? So I would think, okay, so she struggled with X, Y, and Z, and I didn't focus a lot on that. Okay, I'm going to revamp the stuff on my team page to help them refocus on this. And I'm just, you know, I'm not going to let it get to me, but I'm also going to make like like I learned a lesson from it, if that makes sense. And I really love this formula because it takes you from that downward spiral spot and then brings you back into reality of how can this help me in the future? And I hope this makes sense to you guys, because I really loved it when I heard it. I hope I did an okay job of explaining it. It's mean, meaning, and meaningful. Mean is the immediate raw emotion. The meaning is like the real meaning, like what's really happening. And then how can I make this meaningful? I think that was all that I had to go over. Does anyone have any questions or anything about anything? There was a quote I found when yeah, go ahead.
I really like the I felt, I feel, and the I've learned. I've heard it over and over, but I've never wrote it down. And so tonight I did, and it's going to stick with me. I know it is.
I write it down to remind me, because even I've almost been doing this for like 2 years, you guys, and even to this day, there's still like so much things that can distract us away from the basic things that are going to grow this business. It's unreal. So we have to have like that focus, and that's so important. So I like, even on my planner, like I literally remind myself to work out. I remind myself to do PD. I remind myself to add 3 people. Like I have to, or else I can get drawn away from the basics, the things that really matter to grow this business, like so easy, because there's all these little flashy fun things. But you can also do that. I feel, I've learned, or I've found, like, you know, I've learned, which however you want to word that, but it's such a simple format for posts, and it's so effective, especially if you want to get a message across. And then after you've wrote it up, just sit there and think about it and be like, how can I weave naturally, like coaching or this business or, you know, fitness or health or whatever the heck you're talking about, like naturally into this to help someone.
Now, when you make your posts, do you think of it as far as like you talking to your old self, or do you say that you're talking to a specific person that you know of or that you know you want to trigger?
That's a really good question. And I've heard, like you've said, like I heard that a million times, talk to the old Candace before Beachbody. I think I unintentionally do a pretty good job of that, but I'm going to say that I don't consider that a lot of the time when I'm writing, because I get so in the moment. You guys know me, I like to write novels, and it's a way for me to express pretty much everything. I'm just a better writer than I am speaker at this time. I would suggest, obviously, writing to your niche market. Like, who are you targeting? Me, I'm targeting me before Beachbody, you know, the person that struggled with, like, I'm seriously finding new struggles I struggle with like every day. So I'm like, my niche is like, we got some issues over here, but
okay.
Brain fart. Go ahead, tell me, give it to me. I know sometimes I do this and then my brain catches up and I'm like,
yeah, I forget.
Targeting cool moms. Are you a cool mom? Oh, you. I thought I read Trevor and I was like, oh wait, he's sitting in the back. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Seriously. That's perfect. It's like they tell us to talk to the Candace or the Brie or the Haley before Beachbody. And that's so true. That's why this format is so perfect, because the I felt talks to that girl. You know, I felt talks to that Candace before Beachbody. You know, I felt lonely. I felt depressed. You know, I felt stuck. I felt this. And I know that the Candace before Beachbody also feels that. So, yeah. Thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it. And I hope you got something of value out of that. And I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. And I look forward to seeing you all on Wednesday for Dream Corp's Call. Good night.